Oh, look! It's Couch Fucker! You gonna fuck a couch, buddy?
Troops out of our street!
Right here. Do not go past the couch.
There's another Ohio, pussy boy! Pussy boy! Pussy boy! Pussy boy! Pussy boy! Go fuck the couch! Go fuck the couch, JD Vance! Go fuck the couch!
Sin duda, señores, ya no estamos cerca de una toma autoritaria del poder por parte de Trump. Fácilmente podemos decir que ya estamos viendo una toma autoritaria en este mismo momento. No hay un mejor ejemplo, nada más claro que lo que está ocurriendo en Washington, D.C. Guardias armados acosando a ciudadanos, patrullando calles que en realidad sabíamos que ya eran seguras. Lógicamente no es 100%, pero todo eso es para poder sostener una mentira. De que el crimen estaba fuera de control. Y así poder justificar que Trump tome el control absoluto de Washington, D.C. Pero bueno, Washington, D.C. ha estado respondiendo y lo que pasó, señores, hoy fue espectacular. Porque vimos a algunos republicanos como J.D. Vance, como Pete Hegseth, como Stephen Miller, que fueron abucheados en su cara y literalmente tuvieron que salir huyendo. Vamos a ver esta humillación total, pero primero quiero mostrarles por qué es que la gente salió a protestar. Veamos esto.
Like there are certain people specifically on that side that anytime we want to discuss what has taken place as relates to black people and how they took our labor, how they took our lives, how they ruined families, they never want the truth to come out because it hurts their feelings. It's kind of like when we decide to call a racist, such as these racist maps that are going through Texas. They always are upset when you just call them for what they are. But the reality is that we need to start speaking more truth if we are really going to get to the real power. And if we don't recognize the full history, then we are doomed to repeat it. And frankly, this is a guy that is trying to do everything that he can to repeat it. That is why there are so many people saying that if you wonder what you would have been doing during the civil rights movement, then the question is, what are you doing right now? Because we are literally living through a modern day civil rights fight, the fight in which there was a Texan who signed the Voting Rights Act into law because of these literacy tests and because of Jim Crow. And now, just the other day, what did he say? He wanted to get rid of mail-in ballot voting. This is a guy that wants to take us back. We knew that we had an opportunity not to go back. In fact, that was the theme of a campaign when she said, we won't go back. She knew what he wanted to do.
El ataque de Donald Trump a Washington, D.C. y al tema de los museos. No solo es un tema de poder, es un plan para muchos racista. Un plan para arrebatar derechos a comunidades de color, a comunidades latinas. Para poder intimidar, poder borrar su historia y su presencia política de este siglo. Todo esto disfrazado con la narrativa falsa del crimen. Y pues bueno, ahí estaba Stephen Miller intentando vender este cuento frente a la gente. ¿Y qué pasó? Lo abuchearon sin piedad.
No families they're raising in this city. They have no one that they're sending to school in this city. They have no jobs in this city. They have no connections to this community at all. But they're the ones who've been advocating for the 1%. The criminals, the killers, the rapists, the drug dealers. And I'm glad they're here today. Because me, Pete, and the Vice President are all going to leave here, and inspired by them, we're going to add thousands more resources to this city to get the criminals and the gang members out of here. We're going to dismantle those networks, and we're going to prove that a city can serve for the law-abiding citizens who live there. We are not going to let the communists destroy a great American city, let alone the nation's capital. And let's just also address one other thing. All these demonstrators that you've seen out here in recent days, all of these elderly white hippies, they're not part of the city and never have been. And by the way, most of the citizens who live in Washington, D.C. are black. This is not a city that has had any safety for its black citizens for generations. And President Trump is the one who is fixing that with the support of the Metropolitan Police Department, the support of the National Guard, and our federal law.
Y es que amigos, yo ya he dicho esto y es que Stephen Miller es alguien insoportable. Ahí con su cabeza pálida, brillante, ¿no? Con esos trajes que parecen que los compró en rebaja. Pero esta vez recibió lo que merecía. Tanto él como J.D. Vance, y bueno, el que no pueda ser dominadas, Pete Hegseth, terminaron corriendo de la Union State, luego de que la multitud los enfrentó. La escena fue muy clara mientras se paseaban junto con las tropas de la Guardia Nacional desplegadas por Trump para reducir el crimen. La gente no se tragó la farsa y los recibió con gritos y burlas. Ahí está la humillación total para J.D. Vance, la humillación para Pete Hegseth, la humillación para Stephen Miller. Y amigos, eso es exactamente lo que los demócratas y la oposición necesitan. Salir a las calles, hacerse escuchar, mostrar de que no tienen miedo. Muchos dicen que esto solo es una cortina de humo para poder distraer de los archivos de Epstein, o de la rendición de Trump ante Putin, o del tema de la redistribución de los mapas electorales. Pero amigos, no, esto es real, esto es una crisis democrática, la cual exige atención inmediata. Donald Trump quiere intimidar, quiere callar, y si no se lo enfrenta en este momento, cada día será peor. Lógicamente, esto no significa que se ignoren otros temas, ¿no? Claro que Trump no quiere que, por ejemplo, se hable de Epstein, ni de su corrupción, pero como demócratas, al igual que como muchos ciudadanos, hay algunos que pueden pelear frente a frente, denunciar las mentiras, exponer los fraudes, sobre todo seguir protestando. Y bueno, escuchemos por ejemplo lo que dijo Rachel Maddow.
Demand democracy. On the other lane there it says resist tyranny. By the middle of last week, bystanders were turning out at all these militarized checkpoints that Trump has set up around the city, crowds chanting, "Get off our streets" and "Take off your mask." By the following morning, there were more protesters outside the White House carrying signs like, "The criminals are in the White House, not the streets of D.C." As of Friday afternoon, there was yet more local residents showing up in droves at, among other places, the city's police headquarters after they learned of Trump's effort, a now failed effort to try to name a Trump administration official to be head of the D.C. police. A federal judge put a stop to that. At a National Women's Soccer League game that night, there were over 10,000 fans there watching their home team, the Washington Spirit. During the game, they chanted, "Free D.C., free D.C." Following morning, on Saturday morning, the weather was super hot in Washington, but D.C. still turned out in big numbers, taking over the streets from DuPont Circle to the National Mall, including passing all the military vehicles and full uniform National Guard troops that have inexplicably been deployed there by the president. Once again, they held signs that say, "Free D.C." Some people also showed up in costume. Despite the heat, this guy dressed up like Donald Trump, holding a sign that says, "Fascism wears diapers now." The look on the cop's face next to that sign is somehow a perfect set of bookends there. Day after day after day after day, the president's military takeover of D.C. has been met with direct action. In these really big protests like the one we saw on Saturday, also in smaller ones as well. This was an activist in D.C. yesterday out in front of the National Guard vehicle. Her sign says, "What Trump order won't you obey?" And, I don't know if it's related or not, but I think Americans just really don't like being threatened with their own military. And maybe that's the reason why two of the other U.S. cities that had really big protests against Trump this weekend were two other U.S. cities where Trump has threatened that he's going to send the troops next after D.C. The city of Chicago, for example, had a really big protest against Trump this weekend after Trump threatened to send the U.S. military into Chicago after he gets through D.C. Same goes for the city of Oakland, California, which Trump also threatened. People in Oakland turned out in big numbers to protest against Trump this weekend. But there were anti-Trump protests. There were Fight the Trump Takeover protests this weekend all over. Here's Dallas, Texas, and Boston, Massachusetts, and Santa Clarita, California, and Raleigh, North Carolina. Here's big protest in Tucson, Arizona, and in Tracy, California, and Tyler, Texas, and Waterford, Connecticut. Here's San Diego and San Rafael in California. These were all this weekend. This was back in Washington, D.C. today, as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived at the White House to try to clean up the absolute mess President Trump made in Alaska on Friday when he met with Vladimir Putin and literally applauded for him while he bounced up and down like a child. Trump gave up his own demand for a ceasefire in Russia's war, just 180 degrees, reversed himself in exchange for nothing from Putin, and then he unilaterally acceded to Putin's demand to have Ukrainian territory given to him, as if that's Trump's to give away. It's never a good sign when you come out of a hastily arranged summit like that, and the paper of record in your country describes it this way, quote, even in the annals of Mr. Trump's erratic presidency, the Anchorage meeting with Mr. Putin now stands out as a reversal of historic proportions. Quote, critics compared it to the 1938 conference in Munich, when British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain surrendered part of Czechoslovakia to Germany's Adolf Hitler as part of a policy of appeasement. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, himself once considered the Trump of London, called the Alaska summit meeting, quote, just about the most vomit-inducing episode in all of the tawdry history of international diplomacy. Yes, not exactly rave reviews, Mr. President. So today, with protesters outside the White House showing support for Ukraine and criticizing Trump, and you see that guy holding the 1939 sign there. People holding signs referencing the disastrous consequences of Chamberlain's appeasement of the Nazis in the 1930s.
Ahora bien, amigos, teniendo esto en claro, cada vez nos queda también mucho más claro que Donald Trump está en un declive cognitivo, y es algo muy evidente. Pero lo más alarmante es que los grandes medios siguen sin prestarle atención. Como si ya hubieran normalizado que el hombre más torpe y menos preparado en llegar a la presidencia viva hundiéndose mentalmente en vivo y en directo. Y lo peor es que Trump, él mismo, parece estar desesperado porque hablen de su estado. Tanto que en su último desliz fue tan notorio que por primera vez generó un escándalo de salud. Para empezar, quiero mostrarles a alguien que lleva mucho tiempo denunciando este deterioro, uno de los pocos en los grandes medios, que no ha sacado el dedo de este problema, y que además le tiró fuerte a los medios por su silencio, y ese, señores, es Lawrence O'Donnell. Escuchemos.
Donald Trump gets dementia. How will we know? Donald Trump's mental decline, which is more and more obvious, started from such a low level of mental processing power that it's hard to track his decline. It's from low to lower. And then there are days like today when Donald Trump asks himself out loud in public if he is allowed to appoint himself chair of the Federal Reserve. Now, it may be tiresome to hear, but we must not grow weary of making the point that no other president was ever capable of saying anything as stupid or as indicative of dementia as that. Am I allowed to appoint myself chair of the Federal Reserve? And we must not grow weary of reminding ourselves what the White House press corps would have done if Joe Biden ever said anything like that, and how big the headlines would be in the next day's print editions of the New York Times and the Washington Post and every newspaper in the country, because if we grow weary of making the point of how singularly stupid and possibly clinically demented Donald Trump's statements are, then we will become part of the normalization process of those statements, which most of the American news media has unwittingly participated in, and 14-year-olds in this country will think it's perfectly normal for a president to say those things.
Ahí lo tienen. El problema no solo es Trump, sino también la complicidad de la prensa, los que buscan y evitan hacer preguntas básicas. Su deterioro ya es tan evidente que incluso los periodistas ya no pueden ignorarlo. Tanto así que hasta Caroline Leavitt, la secretaria de Trump, su vocera, tuvo que salir a dar respuestas ridículas, que solo terminaron levantando más sospechas.
Let me take you back to something from last month. You guys announced the president was diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency after his legs were seen swelling. How's he being treated for that? And while you were upfront about those health issues, curious if the White House would be willing to let us speak with his physician directly about those health issues. I know there were a lot of concerns about the last White House not making the physician available. Would the physician be available in this case?
I don't want to make that commitment on behalf of the physician, but it's certainly something we can look into and explore out of the effort of transparency, because unlike the previous White House, there is nothing to hide. You guys see this president working around the clock, literally 24/7, all of the time, and I will be happy to look into that request.
Can we at least get an update on how he's being treated for the swelling legs and for the hands and the other issues?
Look, you see the president every day. He's moving, he's working, he's continuing. There have been no adjustments made to his lifestyle.
Seamos claros, señores, responder con frases vacías, repetir algún tipo de eslogan, no es transparencia. Y mientras Caroline Leavitt miente, Trump se encarga de mostrar el mismo deterioro sin filtros en vivo. El último episodio fue una llamada telefónica a Fox News que dejó a todos en shock porque Trump, con 79 años, dijo que quería lograr un acuerdo de paz entre Ucrania y Rusia porque eso mejoraría sus posibilidades de llegar al cielo.
And we had a very good call. And I told him that we're going to set up a meeting with President Zelensky, and you and he will meet. And then after that meeting, if everything works out, okay, I'll meet and we'll wrap it up. But you know, it takes in this case two to tango. They have to have somewhat of a relationship. Otherwise, we're just wasting a lot of time. I don't want to be doing that for. I just want to end it. I want to end it. You know, we're not losing American lives. We're not losing American soldiers. We're losing Russian and Ukrainian, mostly soldiers, some people as missiles hit wrong spots or get lobbed into cities like Kiev and towns. But, you know, if I can save 7,000 people a week from being killed, I think that's a pretty. I want to try and get to heaven if possible. I'm hearing I'm not doing well. I hear I'm really at the bottom of the totem pole. But if I can get to heaven, this will be one of the reasons. Well, I think I saved a lot of lives with India, Pakistan. They were going at it. The planes were being shot down. That was going to be maybe a nuclear war if I let that go. And I did that through trade. I was negotiating with both of them. I said, I'm not going to make a trade deal with you guys. You're fighting until you get peace. And I got them on the phone. I made a peace deal. And many deals, you know, 6, actually 7. And then we took out the nuclear capability from Iran. That was a big one in those pilots and those planes when people say, you know, we had the B-2 fly right over President Putin as he left his plane. He looked up, he said, what the hell is that? That's a hell of a noise. We didn't make it environmentally friendly, okay? If that's okay with you guys.
Así es, amigos. Literalmente confesó que se siente en el fondo de la lista para entrar al paraíso y que si logra frenar la guerra tal vez tenga algún lugar. Una declaración bastante extraña, ¿no? Algo desconcertante y obviamente ha desatado dudas muy serias sobre su estado mental. El hombre que literalmente puede ser, y estos muchos piensan que no, él quiere un tercer mandato, ahora habla de la muerte, de la salvación eterna, de su legado. Mientras vemos movimientos físicos que también alimentan rumores, porque hace pocos días no podía ni caminar en línea recta cuando tenía que encontrarse con Putin. Y ni siquiera reconoció al presidente de Finlandia cuando literalmente, señores, estaba frente a frente en la Casa Blanca. O sea, oficialmente dicen que solo padece de insuficiencia venosa crónica, ¿no? Porque esto es lo que la Casa Blanca ha informado, que es un problema de circulación. Pero lo que vemos es mucho más que eso, ¿no? Es claramente un deterioro cognitivo. No olvidemos que Trump lleva semanas obsesionado con el legado. Que si su cara en el billete de $1,000, que si el Mount Rushmore, que si el Nobel de la Paz. Y todo va como que mezclado con delirios de grandeza, mientras aún se aferra a la idea desde un tercer mandato, ¿no? Y eso que ni siquiera va un año de su segundo. Pero en el fondo se sabe que la ola azul, más que seguro en las próximas elecciones de medio término, podrían acabar con él políticamente. Entonces tal vez eso lo tiene aterrorizado. Como si eso no fuese lo suficiente, el Congreso también se prepara para retomar un tema que Trump está intentando ocultar a toda costa, y es esta relación con Jeffrey Epstein. Y sobre eso habló de manera directa la demócrata Jasmine Crockett. Escuchemos.
Absolutely. I mean, transparency is what the people are asking for. And anything that it seems like you are trying to filter out will only bring about more questions and concerns. I think right now the president knows that he really got himself into a pickle. This is something that he campaigned on, and ultimately it's something that he didn't deliver on, which frankly, that is what Trump is known for doing. But for whatever reason, this has been one of those sticking points for his base, and he has tried to distract and destroy communities, as you're talking about D.C., in order to get people to focus on something other than the Epstein files. But the people are zoned in and wanting to know what is in them.
I mean, how is this process going to work? I guess I just feel like, so DOJ is going to give Comer some files, and Comer says that William Barr has already testified to the fact that he didn't see he had no reason to believe Donald Trump committed a crime, which is like, okay. Who's going to do this? Is it committee staff, and is it going to be bipartisan staff? Like, are Democrats going to have any involvement, or this is just like James Comer gets to kind of choose as he likes to?
No, we absolutely should be demanding to be a part of this. Let's not forget that the Republicans wanted to send us home so that they could avoid any questions around even subpoenaing any documents, let alone the entirety of the Epstein files. And it was the representative out of Pennsylvania, Summer Lee, who is the ranking member for a subcommittee on oversight, who then initiated this process when they thought, you know what, we're in the clear. We recessed. And Summer said, not so fast. And so she was able to get the subpoena done in a bipartisan way. I will say that the chairman really did drag his feet and took his time in crafting that subpoena, but we finally did get the subpoena out, and we know that those documents are due to us. I am waiting on the list of excuses that the DOJ has for why they can't turn in the entirety of the file on time. I am waiting on it. I am anticipating it. But I think that right now, the Republicans are the ones that are struggling because, again, this was their campaign promise. Democrats were out there campaigning on things such as the economy and education and housing. And, well, we were trying to give the American people something that would better their lives. But seemingly the Republicans were zoned in on the Epstein files. And right now, we know that the Republicans have torn the economy apart. So the one thing they need to do to hopefully hold on to some semblance of their base is to give them some assurances that they are finding out who was involved with Epstein.
I want to ask you about something happening in your home state of Texas. You were a state legislator in Texas before you came to Congress. We've all been following the story of the extremely rare, abnormal, pure, nakedly partisan attempt to redistrict mid-decade just to jack up the numbers for Republicans, to make it more difficult for the American people to essentially choose their own representatives instead of have the representatives choose their people. Democratic members of the state legislature have broken quorum to try to slow this down. There's one member now, Nicole Collier, who is essentially kind of locked inside the state capitol right now. There you see her sleeping because she wouldn't sign a permission slip that they made her. Have you been? What do you think about what's going on in your old place of work?
Yeah, again, we're living in a country of lawlessness. This is unconstitutional. This is someone who has not been accused of a crime whatsoever. In fact, just the opposite. I mean, there are definitely people that needed to be locked up in the state of Texas, starting with our attorney general, who had been under federal investigation for a number of years, who had been under felony indictment for a number of years, who was impeached by his own party. Yeah, yet he never saw any lockup come to him. And obviously, you know how I feel about the president and where he should be.
Exactamente, mis amigos. No se necesita adornar ni buscar excusas. El escándalo de Jeffrey Epstein es tan grave por sí solo que basta con enfocarnos en él. Donald Trump intenta robar elecciones, intimidar comunidades de color, latinos, y al mismo tiempo esconder su pasado con Epstein. Todo eso ya es más que suficiente para poder hundir. Y eso es lo que los grandes medios no están hablando.